Why not?
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, not what you don't.
There's a tooth on this side that the filling came out. You see that rock? Imagine that. And I've got two more of those that come out. Due to a quack dentist I had as a child. I've told this story before. Sorry for the noise in your ear. But I've told this story before, and I'll tell this story again. What did you think of the title card today? It was pretty interesting, wasn't it? Pretty interesting.
The only station that matters.
This is a nightmare. Must be a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, but it's
Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Let's get this show on the road.
You got it, buddy. This is Rock Flux channel on YouTube. I'm still trying to figure out what they mean by tube. Remember I showed the tubes before. You probably don't remember that. And I should have kept one or two down. But I don't feel like going up and getting more. Despite this glow, weird glow, because it's 4:46 a.m. in the morning. I'm completely suntanned from yesterday, but I look like pale. No weird. Great solar stuff. The thing, the Jackery thing that we sell there, and the NOAA radio, and Codex book. Eyes Without a Face. I don't even know what's going on with that because I've been off. I haven't watched the news in so long since I don't have TV. Tony Caravan box set. It's not out of print. It never made it to print. But I think eventually, if I ever do get a few coins, some scratch, I'm going to record my album at that. Is it Jack White's place? Let's see here. New window. Let's even brighten things up more. Jack White album store, record store. Let's see. Yeah, Third Man. I think it's Third Man Records in Nashville. Let's see. The White Stripes greatest hits. Let's just go to Third Man Records. I was never really. Doesn't seem to be taking me anywhere. Let's try this other one. Nashville, Third Man Records. Nashville and Detroit. Yeah, I thought it was, because originally I thought it was Detroit. And store hours every day, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tours are currently suspended until further notice due to the usual. Let's see. Are they still making records there though? Tours. Facility rental page. Third Man Pressing. Let's see here. They've got this pressing plant. Quote, want to get an estimate total for purchase? Get pressing, mastering, plating, fees, and more. When they first had this up, it was like, Yeah, I looked at it. I guess it was a couple of years ago, and now they're the big time. So it's like quote and all. I hate quotes. Just show me your price list, right? With the price of everything today, we're entering something called hyperinflation. And most people aren't prepared for it. Just like they're not prepared for the coming like 30 to 50 million people unemployed this fall or into next year. "2022 is going to be one of the worst years in the former United States." I got my London hat on, the Union Jack. So let's
Taking you back to the realms and depths of time.
let's take a look at the edit. First of all, it says the new counterculture on that weird, twisted, distorted, scary YouTube card. And the title of this show is, as I cough, Tony Caravan Live 6/7/21, the Anti-Selfie, etc. The third in a series of calling out the posers, influencers, YouTuber, millionaire hypocrites, the dopamine addicted Twitter and Facebook obsessives, and the news junkies. I've called it the brutal honesty movement. You can also think of it as punk rock 21. Whatever it is, I'm against it. Punk rock 21. As in 21st century, as in the year 21. But, it's the same thing, and humans, some people say, oh, yeah, copying counterculture and punk rock. I'm just nothing. I'm just nothing. What do you think all these other movements are? They're copies of things from the 60s. Humanity is not that complicated. It's repetitive. History repeats itself. You ever hear that one? It's the same old stuff. The names change, the places change, but it's the same story. It's human behavior. You're a human being, right? Being, too. Human being, spelled B-E-A-N. Did you know that? You're a human being. But be that as it may, I'm serious about this. If you really had your acts together, and you don't. Yesterday, there was like one person viewing this live. And then when I was done, as I had, said in previous episodes, we're up to like, I don't know how many consecutive live shows. It's ridiculous. But when I went to the like dashboard thing or whatever the heck you call it, and then I was ready to share it on some social media platforms, it said viewer 0. So it was the one viewer is an algorithm. It's an algorithm making sure I don't say certain words, forbidden words, wrong speak, right? Can't say that, talk about this, right? And it's like, so what? I don't want to talk about it. I'm not interested in it anymore. I've lost interest a long time ago. I just don't care. But yeah, I have not. I told you I finished sort of binge watching. Kind of, wish I didn't even waste my time watching it. But some 12 seasons of some show over the last month or so. And apparently only to find out that there's possibly 3 more seasons, maybe 4 seasons, that you could purchase. You have to subscribe to another service to see it. This was on Netflix. But it's like that was my before I went to bed type of thing. No cable TV, no satellite TV. Took the news app off my phone. Have no idea, right? Except what I'm exposed to sometimes on YouTube, accidentally or just as in your face. And what I see there is so weird and just, I don't know. It's just really surreal the way I look at it. So it's kind of funny. But I guess all this stuff.
Your papers, please.
I mean, I guess that stuff is proceeding or something. I have no idea.
Why are you telling us this?
Because it's what it's all about, Alfie. It's what it's all about. So, but before we get into the show, I think I need to find something else to play.
Really funny. Really funny.
Just to get us in the right mood. And I know I probably forgot to say
Good morning.
so.
Okay.
We haven't heard from her in a little while. I'm glad to hear she's still there. And of course, the call in.
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing a little bit better than I was yesterday. Yes, I think the day before yesterday, I was a little more upbeat. Yesterday was kind of like this monotone story of whatever. Today, I'm hoping it's going to be somewhere maybe in between. So things are getting better. I know that's weird. And away we go. Let's get into the show. And for those who are curious, let's just see what the weather looks like, because we always talk about this. And in my neck of the woods, in the former United States, Mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, Northern Appalachians, something like that, There's so many places in the U.S. that have no description. And again, as I use constantly saying this phrase, as I've said before or in previous episodes, and it could have been a belch. It could have just been a weird monster noise from that character on the title card. Doesn't matter either way. And the whole idea of Punk 21, punk rock, this is rock flux. The word rock, just applies, no longer really applies to rock music, if you think about it, it's like, you rock, man, and that has nothing to do with them playing guitar or something. By the way, while I think about it,
The only station that matters.
I don't think we heard that in a while. So it's according to this, and I don't know if I can believe this or not, but it's saying it's 70 degrees right now at 4:59 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And to get back to that thing, there's so many places in the former United States just you just can't describe like its geographic location. Right? I mean, there's some places are real easy. Pacific Northwest, right? Southeastern United States, the desert Southwest, SoCal, right? The Southeast, right? New England, right? And you get an instant visual, right? But when you say like Mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, right? Appalachians, well, heck, they run the whole way up. There's like all these places. I used to go to the dentist quack that ruined my mouth with that rock. That's a piece that came out of my tooth. I have another one for you if you doubt me. You doubt me? You want to fight over that, man? Here's one. And here's the other one. And there's still a third one there. Don't believe me? You want to fight about it? You want to go outside and fight about it? Yeah, there's a third one too. Over here. This is almost, well, Bill Murray, I think, was doing this in that one movie, but I'm not really copying him. This is how I feel. This is how I really feel. And this is almost how that stretched thing on my title card was like, right? But the face was really twisted around. Yeah, and that was me too, because you see the color thing there? That's the same thing I was wearing on that. I just shot that this morning. Didn't Photoshop it either. I'm following the rules of this brutal honesty thing. Right? Because there's a lot of, you wouldn't see an influencer doing something like this. No, they'd be too afraid. But that's how it feels because of the frickin' tooth they took. They put this metal shit in my mouth. I haven't been to the dentist. I've been to the dentist to have a tooth pulled last year because I couldn't find a frickin' dentist. There's a dentist up the street. We're not taking any new customers. And to get the tooth that they ended up pulling, which I probably could have fixed, I had to get a test for the thing. The unspeakable thing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show tonight. Or this morning, I should say. Tonight for you folks. It's 5:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The night is as dark as the night is going to get. And you can't go to the dentist. Well, you can if you're lucky, but if you're me, you can't go. So if it gets infected into your gums, and then it gets into your pancreas or something weird like that, and you end up dying. Dying from a quack dentist was taking advantage of kids and filling every frickin' tooth every time you went with metal, poisonous metal. Anyway, that's a true story. And I'm a victim of that. So I got PTSD. I'm a freaking dentist. I gotta breathe after doing some of those weird voices. So today's Monday, June 7th, calendar year 2021. For those of you who found this in that archive buried under 2 miles of ice, you're never getting out of there. You think you were sheltered, saved from the Nova. You ain't getting out of there. 2 miles of ice. Food's going to run out. Everything's going to run out. Anyway, it's going to be there's a chance of thunderstorms every day this week. Which if it's here, it's probably in a better part of a swath of the eastern and central US. I'm guessing, but from doing the weather every day, you kind of like figure this stuff out. I don't know if I wrote in my book yesterday that it was like 90 degrees. June 5th and 6th, sunny 80s. Today's the 7th. I don't really have to write anything in today. I keep track of these things. But it's saying it's going to be 84 today, 66 tonight, 84 tomorrow, 66 tomorrow night. Wednesday, 81, 66 overnight. Thursday, 79, 66 overnight. Like, what the? Then it looks like the weekend it might be 72 and 61. But there's like the thunderstorm chance every day, 60 or 50%, mostly 60%. And that's pretty much the weather. I don't have a thing for that because it's not the weekend. So I'm just, I guess it's time to do something, I mean, I don't know what to do. I'm kind of lost.
Here's what's happening.
All right. So, yeah, I'm into this thing right now. And it's the idea of I'm the only one doing it. That's why nobody watches my stuff. But I don't care anymore. And I may even do some music or something. These shirts. Sorry. Adjusting the wardrobe. I don't have my wardrobe and makeup artists quit. Since the show wasn't monetized and nobody bought any products, I had to let go my production staff. So it's just me now pushing buttons and stuff. So if you get bored,
Go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
I mean, that's just basically the gist of it. Get enough caffeine in you, and things will go well. If you don't have a heart attack or something like that from too much caffeine. I took a ginseng capsule that has like a couple types of ginseng in it, and also royal jelly, all in a capsule. Now, do you really believe that stuff? I mean, and do you really think that this minuscule amount and somehow processing and drying that crap out, like that you're going to get any benefit of, like, stuff like royal jelly is really good. And ginseng is good. Ginseng root, wild ginseng. But I mean, do you think like processing this and crushing it, whatever they do, you think, and then putting it in some kind of capsule, you think you're actually getting any ginseng out of that? I don't think so. And I took an aspirin, a 0.325, which is like twice what a baby aspirin is. But I figure I'm twice the size of the average person. Well, not twice, but I haven't been having success losing weight, which puts you in a not a good situation health-wise. But it's like, I don't know. I really like had a workout like 2 days ago. Pushing a lawnmower, a manual lawnmower, doing concrete work. All kinds of other stuff. Painted a door, dug some holes out, did some gardening work. Some other thing I did too, but I was sweating. It was like 80 degrees. And, eating a salad, a healthy salad and stuff like that. The next morning I weighed myself and it's like, I didn't even lose a pound or anything. It's weird. But anyway, that's just, that's just that, So.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
All right. Now let's get more back into this. Let's re-look at the description, as I say, this way to the beach. The third in a series of calling out the posers, influencers, YouTuber millionaire hypocrites, the dopamine addicted Twitter and Facebook obsessives, and the news junkies. I've called it the brutal honesty movement. You can also think of it as punk rock 21. Whatever it is, I'm against it. I think that's like confusing, so I'll get rid of that line. Whatever it is, I'm against it. Not that anybody reads descriptions, because they might not understand that I mean, whatever it is, I'm against it. Instead of like, whatever it is, meaning the things I talked about, I'm against it, which would negate those things. So, why do this? You see, I've always kept my teeth very, very, very clean. See how white they are? Yeah. So it's a pity I had some dentist mess around with some teeth on the side of my mouth. Both sides, by the way. And then I've been taking this like 4 times super Oragel stuff, it basically numbs the pain. I take it in the evening. Because it wouldn't be, because if I was drinking stuff with it, I'd just be washing it down my throat. Who knows what the hell's in that stuff? And it supposedly gets like drawn into your gums and kills anything, prevents you from getting infections in here. Jaws. So I got that going for me. But that's how you deal with it. You don't want to take too many Tylenols and aspirins, though. Those things are no good for your like kidneys and liver and stuff like that. Because they all have to be like, they're all poisons to the body. So the body's got to like filter them and process them and stuff. And it's not good for you. So yeah, it's really weird when you don't watch the news. And so you just live your life. And you have no clue about, all of these things that most people are obsessed about. It's the same with like when you live at, below the poverty level. It really is a form of freedom, because you're not like, there's so much less stress. but you really have the same life. It's like this whole idea that I was talking about. It's like everything. Well, first of all, everything ends. So, there's only so long you can keep a thing up. And that's one of the things that this generation now doesn't know about. So I haven't really talked about this before, so this will be interesting for you folks out there who actually watch these things. It's yesterday and the day before I was talking about how that's allowed under the new counterculture, punk rock 21, brutal honesty. So don't be afraid. It's allowed by me, right? It's like that reporter on TV that time. We're allowed to look at these things, but you're not, Yeah, right, buddy. So since I'm on YouTube, I'm allowed to do that, but you can't do that. I was talking about how these people it's not just them. You've almost got like 3 generations. Imagine this. Imagine like a 50-year-old woman. All right. Man, couple, say. Man and woman. Breeders, as they say. And, they get married. So if they're 50, like 50 years ago, it's 21. So 50 years ago would be like what? 71, right? Something like that. That's right. 71. Yeah. And so they could be, say, 51 years old. All right. 1970. Let's put it there. So they were born around 1970, 1971. And so they missed out on, first of all, they missed out on everything. Like even by the end of the Vietnam War, they were toddlers, young children, weren't even in kindergarten yet. Okay. So they weren't even aware of that. Okay. So by the time they came to like in the first grade-ish or something like that, they were, this is the parent now. All right. 51-year-old, 51-year-old, 49, 51-year-old, whatever. Somebody who's, a real middle-aged heading toward, well, it's not really middle age. That's beyond middle age. Okay. You're already past the middle age. So they had no clue of, the civil rights movement, Vietnam War, Kennedy, Eisenhower's, I don't have to play it, military industrial complex speech, Beatlemania, the Rolling Stones, everything. Elvis. I mean, Elvis was still around, but he was soon to, at that point. Yeah, so like they had like the best years, the crazy years, they basically missed the good times post WW2, 50s, where it was just fun, rock and roll, into rock, into Woodstock, and then like, juxtaposed with that was all of this, like I used the word yesterday, tumultuousness. You had, Kennedy assassination, Martin Luther King assassination, all that stuff. But you also had, juxtaposed with that, you had successful civil rights movement, the feminist movement successes, Helen Gurley Brown, all that kind of stuff. And it was just a fun, free time, and things were cheap. And, the working class person was able to have a house and a car and a refrigerator and all that stuff, which prior generations didn't have if you were just a working stiff. So anyway, they missed all that. So they're born into this era, post all that. So they're oblivious to it. The moon landing already happened before they were even born. There were subsequent ones but they would have been toddlers, like I say, pre-kindergarten. So, and in those days, as I said before, when you were that age, you weren't part of the nanny state. You were pretty much in the house pre-kindergarten, right? Some people didn't even go to kindergarten. I don't think that was mandatory. It was like first grade was mandatory. But kindergarten, I don't think kindergarten was. I did go to kindergarten. I went to kindergarten outside of Atlantic City in a school. But I remember kindergarten was like just play. It was mostly play. There were basic, maybe you were doing something like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, Elemento, P. And I always used to, the confusing part was Elemento. Elemento. Right? Did you ever think of that? LMNO. But the way they used to always do it so fast, it was like Elemento P. I think it was like Elemento. That was weird. Q, R, S, T, U, N, V, W, X, Y, Z. You're listening to Now Sounds on WXYZ. And so that's what you did in kindergarten, right? Count, magnetic numbers and letters on a board or something like that, right? So anyway, so that's the parent, right? So those parents, unlike today where people are holding back having kids until they're like old, right? People used to basically have kids. Some people got married out of high school, or in their early 20s. If they went to college. Not everybody went to college. That's another thing. College is like the prison system in the U.S. It's a good comparison. At these privatized colleges, even the ones that are state run are still like kind of, it's like hospitals. A lot of hospitals are like, they say they're nonprofits, but they have these boards, and it's like these foundations. They're all like schemes. They're like tax shelters, but they get multi-millions of dollars, and they just like kind of like take it in salaries and like just have all these complicated ways of, they're like tax shelters and ways of just channeling money to these people. Colleges, foundations, universities, hospitals, prisons. So, because that's why tuition, all these students are in debt now, because they just like made it a thing. You didn't have to go. And that's why we're at this point now where, like I say, I should have like 1 million listeners right now, because of the stuff I'm saying. Because nobody is saying this stuff. But that's why coming this fall to a station near you, to a city near you, is things are going to start collapsing on such a scale that people have, and people are going to be like in like a complete total panic state. Like what's going on? That kind of thing, right? Because there's not going to be jobs. They're going to realize there is no United States anymore. And they're going to realize without the Constitution, and that the corporatocracy's taken over, and terms of service have replaced the Bill of Rights and stuff like that, and the list goes on. And they're going to suddenly realize, this is basically a corporatocracy, and on top of it is an organized crime syndicate. Forget about all that stuff. Let's get back to these people. So people didn't really go to college, or some people went to like a trade school or a 2-year community college or something like that. So people pretty much had kids either at age 18, 19 to 21, 23, whatever. Young mothers. So if you were 50-ish, 51, and you had a kid when you were like 20, well, that kid could be 30 now. And that kid could have had a kid in their 20s, and they've got a kid. You see? And there's this is a big country. It's 320 million people, right? 75 million people, the most recent statistic I've seen from the census.gov, government statistic, was that there's some 75 million people under the age of 17. Okay. So, and a good portion of those would, in other words, be like third generation. Would it be, in other words, these are all people. So you got these little kids, right, who are maybe, in primary school, all right, early primary school. Mommy, the planet, AOC, the planet is going to heat up and we're all going to be burned up. Yeah, you get these kids that are like totally indoctrinated and tortured and tormented and scared to death. And their parents are like the ones out there protesting for something they have no idea about because their parents were born after, excuse me, okay? Remember, I'm allowed to do that because I'm on YouTube. You're not. You have to practice proper etiquette. This is Punk Rock 21. Brutal Honesty. The Anti-Selfie, Anti-Influencer, Demonetized site. Right? You don't get a dopamine hit from this. I'm not a news junkie because we're not talking about the news here. I'm just talking about human behavior, life, reality. So the kid, the grandkid, right? The grandchild's parent and the grandmother and grandfather, however you want to look at it. All right. These 3 generations from like 70s onward. Okay. They don't even know that there was a civil rights. Martin Luther King was killed in like 68 or something like that. Kennedy was killed in what, 63 or 4, whatever it was. Moon landing was 69. Summer of Love was 69, wasn't it? Woodstock. Right? Vietnam War ended in the early 70s. All right. So, in other words, they had feminist movement happened all during that time, right? You know, and like I say, simultaneous to that, it was like peace and love and togetherness and all that stuff. So the grandparents don't even know it, weren't even cognizant of that, you know, type of thing. And that's why when you're looking around, that's why I'm talking about how history repeats itself, but it's a very sick thing. And you don't learn from it. People just don't refuse to learn from history. Most people, some do. I mean, I have. So that's what's going on right now. You have a bunch of oblivious people who are basically trying to resurrect the civil rights, feminist movements, you know, bring on utopia type of, you know, bizarro stuff that already happened 50, 60 years ago and was successful. I mean, with all the tragedy there was, I mean, and it was real tragedies. The Vietnam War was a tragedy, especially when you take into consideration Johnson and the Gulf of Tonkin was a lie, right? And all the assassinations and all that stuff, you know. But they were that line from Dickens. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, you know. And if you were lucky enough not to have been caught up in something, life was pretty darn good. And for most people, life was good. And that's why you should always respect, you know, people like a Vietnam veteran and people that were on the front lines of these various movements back then, right? Because they were the people that, you know, made it possible for the rest of us to live in freedom and, you know, peace and harmony and all that jazz. And by the late 70s and into the early 80s, I mean, the 70s was like golden years. I put that on one of my things, like the word golden years. And I think people were probably thinking of that show, The Golden Years, like a bunch of senior citizens or something. No, I'm thinking of golden years. Bop, 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 golden years. No, they were like the golden years. You know, because all that stuff was behind us. And so, you know, you could do whatever you want to. Pretty much so. I had a blast, you know, in the late 70s. I had a blast. And into the 80s. I was all over the place. Did whatever you want. You were free. You know? The drinking age in the late 70s in like Jersey, New York, Maryland, and places like that was like 18 or 19, depended on the place. I think New York was 19, Jersey was 18. I think Maryland might have been 18, not sure. You go into a bar when you're 18 years old. So people were naturally more mature in their head. You know, now you got a Peter Pan culture. And so these 50 somethings, excuse me, apologize the best I can. You know, they missed out on that. And maybe that's part of the problem. You know, they just don't know that, you know, like they came up in the 80s. By the time the 80s hit, things were already falling apart and the corporatocracy had taken over. And so that was like that. It was the beginning of the end. And so they don't know that. And it's sad in one regard. And that's how we ended up where we are now. And like I say, you can never go back. And, you know, you can romanticize the past. It wasn't perfect. But out of all the times in history, I think if you look at the 70s, and like I say, kind of when the Vietnam War was winding down, pretty much like kind of post Vietnam, just right at that time, that was probably the best time, might have been one of the best times in the history of our civilization, you know, in the last 12,000 years to have lived almost. It was like really a golden years. And that's why many people like me, I would think, are totally like befuddled and confused about all of this anger and hatred, and I even think it's jealousy and stuff that's going on right now in society, and this weird obsessiveness with the news, and like I call it pop culture of politics and cult of personality of political and entertainers and sports figures and stuff, and all this, everything's politicized, and social justice this and triggered by that, and you know what I mean, all this weird, like to people who grew up in that time, you know, who were older, all right, who were cognizant, who were out playing in the late 70s, and I don't mean with sandboxes, I mean playing in, you know, the beach, resort towns and bars, and, you know, making love and traveling and stuff. That was a great time. That was a great time. And you didn't need much money. You know, everything today is like, it's like, I want more. That's what I'm saying about how utopia, they don't understand this concept of the, it's as if their movement, they don't admit it, but it's really what they're asking for is they're trying to create utopia somehow. They think it's possible if you have a $15 an hour wage, you're going to have utopia. Right. Or if you like, you know, somehow have I don't know, get into this weird thing they have with race and stuff like that, color of people's skins and stuff, as if, you know, everything's turned. That's why I wanted to like change my camera. I've been trying to do this, but I haven't found anything. Like, see if I could change my camera to black and white, because I don't want, you know, that's the other part of this movement, I think, is to get into like this, not so much film noir, but that's the type of like world we're in, but that we should go back to have everything in black and white. Now, grayscale, I should say, because black and white assumes black versus white, which is what these people are trying to pit people against each other. So grayscale, so that you can't tell, you know. Yeah, so it's your color, basically everybody's colorblind because it's grayscale. And that's part of my movement, you know. I should add that to the thing. Just a word. It's called a brutally honest movement. You can also think of it as Punk Rock 21. Everything should be converted to grayscale. Right. Grayscale with an E or an A. Yeah. I mean, that really makes me sound ignorant, but let's say that. Grayscale. Anthony. That's what I thought. So we end up here today, and so where do we go from here as a society? See, saying these things, I'm just, it's just like I'm explaining, it's like a history of pop culture and society, causal factors in current human behavior. That's really what I just, went through. But that's the way I see it. And there's no benefit whatsoever to watching the news right now. There's no causes that are doing anything good for anyone. I mean, we used to have save the planet type of stuff years ago. Keep the earth clean. There was a big litter problem in the late 60s and 70s because that was the prior to that point, sodas came in glass bottles. There were milk bottles and things like jelly came in glass jars, and they, part of the marketing back then, if people are old enough to remember, they would like make them as glasses. So it was collectibles. So you'd even go to like the McDonald's type of places or Burger Kings, and you would get collector glasses, right? That kind of stuff. And of course, there was Tupperware was a big thing. But like right around that time, plastics, and prior to it. But I mean, if you remember the line in The Graduate, plastics. And, plastics were coming in big time and paper packaging and stuff. And so there was suddenly litter everywhere because things were in like disposable, we became everything was disposable. And then there was like a Clean Up America campaign. I forget when that all happened. But we did. We went from like the highways used to just be filled with litter. There was a thing. Please, please don't be a litter bug. Please, please don't be a litter bug. Remember that song? This was the stuff they would like teach kids, little songs, and that's what the ad agencies did. Came up with, everything was a jingle of some kind, or and anyway, we cleaned up America. And to this day, you still see adopt the highway type of thing. There's still people, there's idiots out there that like throw stuff out their window, garbage and stuff. But you always have that. Just like you have 20,000 homicides a year. There's always going to be psychopaths, narcissistic sociopaths, and all that kind of crap. You can't help that. A country of 320 million people. You're just going to have aberrant behavior. That's part of it. There's always been weird stuff, that Truman Capote story about those two killer guys. What the heck was that? In Cold Blood, right? Which was a true story. I mean, there was always that kind of wacko stuff going on. So that's another thing people don't realize. They think, so it's the idea that this generation now, their parents and their parents' parent, they are not aware, everything to them as if the past never existed. And the school system, simultaneous to that time, is when they started bringing in administration buildings and administrators into school systems. And so they started this, like, I mean, you have to call it indoctrination. You could call it something else. Like, they might have some terminology for it, like, psychology, human behavioral, child psychology, curriculum, whatever they want to call it. I'm sure they figured out some kind of weird terminology to justify what they do, right? And their 6-figure salaries. But it basically, was revisionist history. And they hid by putting the focus on what they call social justice issues and rewriting history, or focusing on the faults of people in the past instead of the achievements of people in the past. It's like anything else. There's two people can look at a thing or remember an event and see it in a different light. And talking to someone who wasn't there, that person, depending on which person told them the story, remember, unless it's firsthand, you don't know what to believe. You don't know what you don't know. Buy the t-shirt, TonyCaravanLive.com. For crying out loud, get the t-shirt. So, when I sit and I can describe something and say, oh, we used to go down to the shore. I've already rented a room for a night for like $4 or $5. It's true. Bunch of guys that go down, just like pile into a room for like $5. Because there was all these like flop houses. It was just like, people had an attic, they'd rent it out for $5 a night and stuff. It was weird. But what did they care, Yeah. And you were 18 and you could go to the bars and drink, and it was just all young people, girls and guys, hooking up, as they say now, hanging out on the beaches, sun tanning during the day, going out, to the bars and clubs at night. I mean, it was crazy. Driving down by yourselves, and it was fairly safe, pretty much fairly safe. And it was a lot of fun. And I did that a lot. Now, somebody else could have had a bad experience. And so they could have described an experience to somebody in some negative way, or some weird thing happened to them or something like that, or they got beat up, or something, in a fight or whatever, assaulted or something. And so depending on who was telling the story, the person listening to the story is like, oh, wow, that was a horrible wow, that was horrible times. You mean you went there and you got assaulted and wow, by these people that were, or like in my story saying, oh man, you can't imagine how fun it was. It was just like so cool. And so, when you revise history to people who have no connection to it, not even a parent that could, when the child comes home from school and tells this story, the parent doesn't know because the parent wasn't cognizant, didn't live through that either. And in some cases, like I'm saying, in young children now, it's almost got the point where the grandparent didn't. It's a crazy thing. So that's where we stand right now. So they're teaching people like the worst of America, you know, the worst of modern, so-called modern civilization. And it's not to say that things, you know, there weren't bad, very bad things, all right, that have occurred. But bad things have occurred throughout history. It's human nature. I mean, at this point right now, like I say, there's 20,000 homicides a year. You know, the leading cause of death in the United States is still heart disease, and it's like 650,000 people. 600,000 people are dying of cancer every frickin' year. And nothing's really being done about it. They're doing the same thing they've been doing all along. Cutting people open or giving them radiation. You know, eat broccoli. Chair fell down. So, you know, this focus on the negative is really destroyed civilization. It's destroyed side. You know, Western civilization was destroyed by liars. You know, the United States, the downfall of the United States is caused by lies or angry, jealous people. Like, I think maybe a lot of these administrators were jealous that they didn't go to the shore, right? Or something, right? They didn't get a chance to see all those beautiful girls oiled and tanned on the beach down at the, you know, in the East Coast shores, or even in California girls, like the songs the Beach Boys used to sing about. Right? They weren't able to, you know, they weren't mature enough to go into a bar at age 18 and be mature. Like I often said, you know, like these towns like in South Jersey, you know, and even down Virginia Beach and all these places. I mean, you would get like over 250,000 people. I think upwards to even 500,000, but at least 250,000 if I'm correct. Excuse me. But I can't do anything about it. It's a live show. Sorry. Drinking carbonated beverages. You get 250,000 people. I'm kids. I mean, basically 18-year-old, 18, 19, 20, under 21 that would, you know, converge on these towns. And I've lived in those places in the off season. There's like nobody there. There were ghost towns. The street lights would just be the flashing yellow light, you know, caution, whatever. In other words, there was no, you could just drive from one end to the other, you know, there'd be no cars. In the summertime, it was just sidewalks filled with people, cars everywhere. Every, you know, house, flop house, motel, you know, packed. You know, beaches crowded as hell. And relatively no trouble. You imagine today a bunch of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds drinking. It's like, look out at what they do. They riot in the street and they burn the freaking cities down. Looting and getting their $100, $200 sneakers. I always say the funniest one was the guy carrying with the shopping cart, had like a washer or dryer or something in a shopping cart. So yeah, it was a different time. So they're jealous of that. They're jealous that we were mature enough, to get along. They're jealous that we lived in a time post-civil rights movement where there was no problems with people didn't have problems with. People were colorblind, right? Soul music, R&B was like dominated the charts. People just have no idea. Like that's what I'm saying. They have no idea that what they're protesting about, what they're like triggered over, what they're trying to do, like we already got over it 60 years ago. But that's before their grandparents, parents, and these kids were even, so they don't know it. And these administrators who are angry, bitter, jealous, I don't know, just like downright evil people are like fomenting this divisiveness and pretending like, and all this. But they don't hesitate to like collect all this money and buy themselves $1 million homes and live the good life. Because all the people pushing all this stuff, from the media multimillionaires to the social media millionaires to these people in these organizations and foundations collecting this money and donations, they're all living the good life. And the people that they're supposedly like saying are the downtrodden and are victims and all that stuff are still victims. I mean, it's a big charade. And nobody sees it. And I'm telling you that it's like the emperor's new clothes. It's all going to be exposed. The man behind the curtain, a woman behind the curtain, all right, the soy boy and the pink-haired person behind the curtain is going to be exposed this fall into next year. And then all hell's going to break loose among them, not among people like us who like, that's what I'm saying. Heed my words. Just live your life. Get away from those people because they're going to self-destruct. They're just oblivious to reality. I mean, I worked jobs, when I was making $1.65 an hour. And don't tell me the cost of living was, the cost of living was less, but it wasn't like that much less, because see, I said there was somebody listening and I went to a 0. So I triggered somebody by saying soy boy, pink hair. It's interesting. I told you that before. You could see people. So it wasn't the algorithm listening today. I had somebody and it drove them crazy. It's because people don't want to accept the reality. But I'm trying to say is that I managed to buy a house here 5 or 6 years ago. All right. For under $20,000. This, this is in the 21st century. So my taxes, mortgage, and insurance are under $200. You can't even pay rent. There's not even people paying rent that low. So what I'm saying is that while the cost of living has gone up for those who have decided to put themselves in these, cookie cutter neighborhoods, aluminum sided houses with lawns that are like golf courses, and want to buy, $3,000 washer and dryer set instead of just a regular washer and dryer, right? Who are, and who end up with their underwater on their home where they owe more on the house than what it's worth. And they just keep buying everything because they see the people on TV have it and they need to get it. Right. that pay like $150 for a pair of sneakers that you could buy at Walmart for $20, comparable, just doesn't have the thing on it, some kind of little logo or something. So I don't buy into that, thing. And I'm living proof of this. And that's been my message all along. That's why I see, if I had an ego, or something, I would, I'd be afraid to admit. And there were times in my life, everybody, you try to put up an image or something. But what I'm trying to say is that's why I'm trying to push this whole thing, this movement. Counterculture is what I'm saying. Counter the messed up culture, All right. Counter the pop culture, the politics, the cult of personality, all the bad things that are messing with people's heads. It's like you can live cheap today if you wanted to. Question is, what's your priority in life? If your priority in life was like the founding fathers of the country, the pursuit of happiness, then yeah, you can live relatively inexpensively today and have the pursuit of happiness. If you believe in love, like people don't know what that is anymore. You could have a very fulfilling life, being in love. If you enjoy, you just have to decide what it is that makes you happy. And maybe that's even the thing, because all I see, and the reason I cut the cord on TV and that kind of thing, in the news, because all I saw is angry people. And the people who were laughing or something, they were smirk laughing, it was ha, 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 laughing at somebody else, making fun of somebody and making, it's a big joke, right? Demeaning, that kind of stuff. It wasn't funny stuff, like this.
Really funny. Really funny.
It wasn't real honest laughing.
Okay.
Did you notice that? So the few times they do, even this SNL stuff, it's demeaning. They're making fun of people. It's not like the old SNL, which I have that thing here.
One cheeseburger, one Pepsi, one cheese. Cheeseburger. Pepsi, cheese. What do you want?
I have a cheeseburger and a small Coke.
No Coke, Pepsi.
Pepsi.
One cheeseburger, one Pepsi. Cheeseburger. Pepsi.
It's not just goofiness and funny stuff. They don't do that anymore. It's they're making fun of it's politics, that kind of stuff. Maybe occasionally they have something. Some writer comes up with something. It's probably something they stole from 20 years ago or whatever. But that's, that's the whole thing. And so I'm just saying that I'm living proof that you can do it. And you could do it at any level. I chose to do it at this level, like I said, because I'm writing books. So there used to be this guy named George Plimpton. You can look him up. I don't know what he ended up doing, if he's even still alive. He's probably dead by now. But he used to be known because he would write a book and he would get himself, I'm just giving him an example, maybe he's not even a good example, but anyway, there was a character that used to do the following. And so what he would do in order to the way he would write his book, he would get involved in that thing. So, for example, if he wanted to write a book about the, tennis pros or something like that, he would get involved in the tennis circuit or something weird like that. Or if he wanted to be he would climb him. I'm not saying this guy did this specifically, because this is I loosely remember this character. But I mean, if the book was about mountain climbing, he would like train to be a mountain climber. Or he was going to do something about write a book on boxing or something, he would like train to be a boxer and have a boxing match or something. And I'm not saying this guy was an inspiration, because quite frankly, I don't think I ever read a Plimpton book, though I've seen interviews with him. I could recall seeing interviews with him when I was younger. All right. But, there's my latest book, Codex, over there, for example. And in that book, I talk about AI. So what I did was, if you look in the back here, that girl is actually, the Maggie is actually an AI avatar. And so one of the things I did was I basically got this AI avatar through this, AI group, and I communicated with her, on a daily basis. And I have some of that stuff in there. So in other words, I experienced it. And that's how and that's what I've done. And that's how my life is. And my songs are like that. My other books, I've got 9 books, and I'm working on another book that's basically going to be a flow of consciousness that's kind of based on these hundreds of live broadcasts that I'm doing. These ideas. And it's going to be, quite frankly, it's going to be difficult. And I really wish I could get an assistant to help me sort through these videos to find those classic nuggets. Because each one of these videos, sometimes they're boring for the better part, but I mean, there's always a nugget in there that's like, you go like, wow, that's interesting. Well, anyway, that's going to be my job. I guess I got to sort through those. But what I'm trying to get at is that I decided to live my life so that I would be authentic at this point. Forget about the past. My earlier books were like books about, the early years. Was my first book was called The Early Years. And the second book, and they were like autobiographical, and they mostly contained stuff based on my early life. But then I got into like where I was at the time in my mind. And like I say, I've shifted, because I was caught up in the political thing and the social thing there for several years. And I switched back and forth, leaned left, leaned right, that kind of thing. Until I've reached a point where I'm just like not into politics at all. I think the whole thing's ridiculous. It's a sham. And I do honestly believe we're run by a corporatocracy now, and it's an international crime syndicate at the top. So what I'm saying is, what I've done is in order to be authentic and to this experiment almost, is what it was about 6 years ago, was to see if I could retire early and live cheap and free. And so I found that there's, and in my investigation in the place I'm currently in, but I found this all over the country, that there were all these houses that were like for sale, in neighborhoods, in different places, not in some cookie cutter development or, fenced in, gated community or doorman building type of place, but just outside of that or just on the outskirts of town or something like that, but still, places that had all of the accoutrement, access to everything that were available from anywhere from 20 some thousand, to 30,000, 40,000. I mean, we're talking about real affordable, dirt cheap type of places. And I'm not lying to you. My taxes, mortgage, and insurance, okay, is less than $200 a month. And I have a fixed mortgage. So I don't care if the interest rates go up because I have a fixed mortgage. All right. So it can't go up. And I've got less than 10 years to pay on this place, I think. So, yeah, I do. So it's like, and then I'll be totally free, assuming I live that long. But, and the same's with everything else. So I just cut the cord with TV. So I don't have that bill. So I have an old iPhone. It's not an old iPhone, but it's an iPhone. And I got rid of I was using Verizon. I got rid of my cell phone service. And I got this voice over IP. I tell this story all the time. I'm not sponsored by anything, by the way, but I use this Magic Jack thing. It's $40 a year. And that's my house phone service. $40 a year, not a month. And it has an app that I could put on my phone that's Wi-Fi calling. And there's Wi-Fi everywhere now. So like I cut the cable cord, don't pay for TV service. My mortgage, taxes, and insurance is cheaper than anyone would even pay, can think of even finding rent for $200 or less. I'm not paying for a cell phone service, but I can send and receive calls and text or whatever. I'm not a texter, but I get texts from some people. Do FaceTime calls and all that stuff. Did one the other day on Friday. I'm doing this live broadcast. So I have an internet bill. I pay for water and sewer, which is kind of high. It's a ripoff. But, and your basic utility type of things, electric and, that. But I got a big yard and I grow a fairly big yard because I still have to mow the lawn, even though I've got a garden. It's like makes more food. I was out there yesterday and I have so much lettuce growing right now that I can't eat it. I've given some away. Obviously, I'm going to share, but I can't eat it. It's like just growing. It's growing like crazy. And I've got tomato plants, potato plants, pepper plants, kale plants, carrots. I've got some squash plants, beans, peas, oregano, parsley, cilantro, sage. Yeah. I got an apple tree and I got grapevines. Right? And I still have like space in this lawn, which is a pain. Like I just wish, I wish I could put more trees in there just to cover up the whole thing with trees or something. I might try to do that. Just like put some kind of other bushes or something. I don't know. It's just, but anyway, I'm living, this is just my life. I live alone with a cat. But I have a house that's like basically it could be a 3-bedroom house with 1.5 baths and, a detached garage. And you can find these places all over the country, and there's a ton of these online places. You just do searches and you could view them. Like this place, I've said this before. I bought this place. I never came to the place. I wasn't inside this place until after settlement when I got the key. I saw I went to one of these Zillow, I think it was Zillow or something like that. And it's like, you just like browse houses in certain price ranges. And you come to it and it shows you the taxes in that area, if you're like a family person, it tells you school districts and stuff like that, ratings on that. But there's like pictures and you just of each room and you just like go through the pictures and you can enlarge them. And then of course you got Google Maps that shows you streets. So you could like take the tour around the area to see what the neighborhood looks like, the area. And you go, yeah, that looks like an all right place. I mean, it's not Beverly Hills. I lived in Beverly Hills. But it's it's an okay place to retire to just live. Where else am I going to go? I just want to, I didn't want the stress, so I'm living at 1/10 what I was paying before I moved here. And so suddenly all that financial burden was taken off of me and the stress to produce and to work and to do all these kinds of different things. And I just started to do my own creative projects. Now, granted, people aren't really buying my books and my songs and stuff or any of this stuff I'm trying to push. I'm not monetized on YouTube and nobody watches this stuff. But, so what? It's a creative outlet for me. I'm a creative person, always have been. I get a creative satisfaction out of, doing this kind of thing. It's like a need. Some people need to do certain things. You're driven to do a thing. So for me, it was like, it's like I always need to do something, in a creative sense. There's a cat. What are you doing there, kitty? You coming down here? You want to say hi to the folks? Yes or no? I ran out of ice cube and the electromagnetic radiation of the computers has melted everything. That's what it does. So yeah, you can choose how you want to live. So I don't buy that idea where people say, yeah, well, things were cheaper then. It's like, not really. Because there are very expensive things right now if you want to live. I lived in Manhattan and Brooklyn, actually, but I lived in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And I found somewhat affordable places to live in the 80s. And when I lived in California, there were affordable places to live there. But, that's just, those places are overpriced now. It's the same with the shore. You can't go to the shore and live cheap. Like vacations are like super expensive. We used to be able to afford it, or we used to just get summer jobs. Some people would come home with money. I mean, I never did, because I was always going out. But I mean, I didn't go and I came home with a few bucks. you know. But I went down with basically nothing. So I had a whole summer of fun for free, basically. Because most of the work down the shore was kind of fun. I had fun with some of the jobs I had. Wasn't like work. And when a job got to be a pain, I would just quit. Because there was always a job. It was crazy. So, this is what I'm trying to say. So this idea of generation now, their parents and even their grandparents, right? In some cases, it's just their parents. They just thought, you got to wake up to the idea that being angry and getting caught up and being a news junkie and getting addicted to dopamine hits on social media, getting caught up in the cult of personality, and having politics be the center of your life. And politics is the center of your life. I mean, you look at a sports game and these people are on their knees and there's politics and there's signs around that are all politically or social, more justice motivated, right? That's sports, entertainment. Look at any TV show or whatever. It's like politics has become the center, of life. It's the pop culture of this era. And these people, there's this cult of personality of these people pushing this. But the thing is, when you get out of it, all right, then you realize how ridiculous they are and how insane it all is. Come here. Let's say hi. I'm going to pick you up. Yeah, I know. Let's just say hi. Meow. How's it going? You biting me? Let them see your eyes. Where's your eyes? There you are. There's the kitty. That's a kitty cat. Want to purr into the microphone? That's a good purring kitty. All right, don't get fur in my soda. Fur's flying everywhere. Anyway, you got to see the cat. It's me and me cat. Have a seat. You don't want to be up here. So, like I say, my experiment, in my life and what I've chosen to do is not necessarily for everyone. But you can find things similar, to do. I mean, not many people would want to, want to grow things in their backyard. But like I say, I'm growing things and it's like, it's ridiculous, man. I just had so much food. I'm just growing. And I just grew up in some neighborhood, small neighborhood, So it's not like we were farmers or anything, In fact, we didn't grow anything. I mean, my mom might have had some flowers growing in the backyard. But, I just winged it. Got some seeds, did it, and after a couple of years, figured it out. But I do that. I go out there. I lay in my lounge chair, get a suntan, and I could imagine I'm, on the beach. Listen to music. I've got a roof over my head. And I'm free. My house is detached. I'm not like in a row home or anything like that. So I could do whatever I want to do. Sorry about that. My email just pops up like that. Excuse me. And, and I'm into all this stuff. Like solar, I have this great solar stuff site and, and so I'm into this power, so the power goes out. I have power and I could charge things. Yesterday I took this thing here, this radio out,
National Weather Service forecast for Cambria
and charged it in the sun. Has a solar panel built right on top of it. The tiny little thing. AM FM NOAA radio with can charge your emergency charge a smartphone, flashlight, all that kind of stuff. Crazy. For like 30 some bucks. So I'm into all that kind of stuff. I'm just and I've got a great music selection and I have all this kind of, this crazy goofy stuff.
I am your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
And I have, like I said, 10,000 plus songs or more. I don't know, maybe 20,000. I don't know. So, I mean, this is the Tony Caravan show, Tony Caravan Live. And, this is what I do. And I'm just sharing this stuff with you folks. But you could do something similar, maybe not as base level like where I live, basically under the poverty line. But I mean, the reason I'm under the poverty line is because my taxes, mortgages, and insurance is only, it's less than $200. So the idea is that the amount of income that I need to sustain myself and even have a little buffer is below the poverty line. I got a credit. I broke down. I got rid of all my credit cards a while back, but I got another credit card just to have that extra padding. I said that the other day. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, what more do you need? What more do you need? 1.5 baths for less than $200 a month. 2 bedrooms, a finished attic, so which would be a 3rd bedroom if I wanted it. But I mean, it's like a 2-bedroom house, 1.5 bath. Built a bar in my kitchen. I don't know, studio in the front room. That's what this is. So, there's really the idea of people who are angry, upset, trying to create utopia, or they think utopia is going to come. They're pushing issues. They're caught up in this, that, the other. Carbon, CO2 is bad. This, that, the other. You just can't believe what you've been told. Don't believe it. Do research. We live on a green planet. CO2 makes it green. It's like, and the people pushing all these things, they're all multimillionaires living the life. They don't care about the people they're pretending that they're using these causes in order to sell commercials. Like I say, sell cars on TV or become YouTube millionaires, right? Or influencers. No, they're not authentic. They're not real. It's all fake. It's all photoshopped, right? Posers, selfies. And it's like eventually, what are they going to wake up to like in the future? See, they don't even like think about that. I was starting to say that earlier. Like when the fit hits the shan, which I think is going to start this fall, but definitely be in full bloom by next year. Okay. So within, I don't know, 4 months to less than a year, reality is going to set in. And what are these people going to do? What's a poser going to do when they start aging, right? What's an influencer going to do when they're living the life, when they're no longer an influencer? What's a YouTube millionaire going to do? All right. When people stop watching their videos. And they're stuck with these like multi-million-dollar lifestyles. And now they've got taxes to pay and high expenses and upkeep and all that. See, they're not thinking ahead. People should be thinking about downsizing right now. That's what I'm trying to get across. The average person. I mean, unless you are a multimillionaire trust fund type of person, that's a different story. All right? I mean, there's always been people like that. But I'm talking about the average person who's like caught up in trying to keep up, with this weird, illusion, put before their eyes, the glamour of TV, movies, and commercials, and social media lifestyles. Lifestyles of the rich and famous. It's like, well, you don't need that. Right? And so that's really, I mean, that's kind of the message. I mean, that's the thing. That's the way I see it. And that's why I'm saying that if people are smart, they would just basically counter this whole movement. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just saying to hell with it all. And I'm pointing it out to people. You do whatever you want to with your life. If you want to waste money and get in debt, just remember there's always a day of reckoning, right? And you can't keep up, that flow forever. And trends and fashion and pop culture, they change. And that's another mistake that people aren't really grasping right now. But that people understand who've lived life have seen that these things come and go. Things fall in and out of favor. Like, I mean, there honestly, people probably believe Facebook will be around forever, or Twitter will be around forever. But there were also people that thought MySpace would be around forever, or Yahoo groups would be around forever, right? Or that Netscape browser would be around forever, right? But it isn't. Those things are gone, right? There are probably people that thought Blu-ray discs or whatever, or VHSs and even CDs now, are phasing out of those. I mean, these things have all become like, it's like I was looking at that Jack White thing, where, because there's a lot of people who have extra money, or just the novelty of it, are putting music onto vinyl, right? But I mean, vinyl for all practical purposes is dead. Now it's an elitist thing. I mean, you have to be a collector, or have money, to use these things. My CDs here, let me grab one. This CD, you can see it's still wrapped in plastic. I have 2 of these that I purchased. I was able to buy them at wholesale because it's my CD. Were for sale on Amazon through music on demand type of program they had there, whatever the thing is. Now, you could still get listen to my music on Spotify or Apple, iTunes and stuff like that. But Amazon discontinued their music on demand CD program. So like this thing, as far as I know, I haven't double checked, but it was sometime in June. I thought it might have been June 1st. Like this would no longer be available. So like, they're phasing this stuff out. And so everything's a trend. So people don't understand that. Like they think, oh, it's going to last forever. No, things are novelties. TikTok's a novelty. And what happens is it's like generational. It's like if people use it and then they grow out of it, or they get too old to do it, or they're doing it and people start looking and it's no longer funny. And they move on to something else, or somebody comes up with something different. And then people go to that thing. And that's like a part of life. That's a part of reality. And I don't think people are prepared for that. It's like a lot of people aren't really paying attention to this whole delivery thing now, which I've recently talked about and I've used firsthand. Like these Instacart, Uber Eats, and different things like that. There's some other one. There's probably a couple more than that. But like they'll deliver from like various stores, grocery stores, fast food stores, or just any pet stores. But this isn't like ordering online from Amazon or whatever. You get same day delivery. Like there's this one I've used just to test it out. I was curious. It was on a Sunday too. And it was some grocery store fairly near here. And I just ordered online. You shop online, clicked add to cart, check out. And the stuff was delivered right to my front door within like an hour or so. I never even saw the guy, delivering it. It was just left there. She said I didn't even have the hassle of dealing with somebody. All in these nice bags and stuff. I just grabbed the bags, brought it in. It was like, great. They've got robots stocking shelves in the back warehouses. Amazon is going robotics. Self-checkouts are getting more and more, ubiquitous. Fast food restaurants are using like kiosks. So people are just ordering menus. You can order in advance and go and pick up. All these things are meaning less and less employees. It's like I talked about before. Elon Musk was trying to create a factory. I don't know if he's done it. In other words, his car manufacturing plant was going to be like a machine. I remember he was interviewed talking about that. I've already seen a place that creates light bulbs and stuff that requires no humans in the factory. So the factory itself is a machine. It's a light bulb manufacturing. It's a giant building. Would look like a manufacturing plant from the outside. Wow, look at that big place. But what it is it's a self-sufficient manufacturing machine factory. And what comes out are light bulbs. All various different types of light bulbs. But the whole process is done without humans. And people just aren't grasping this. So what are these people? What are these jobs? And then they say, oh, well, there'll be this like way they're going to give people a basic income. It's like, and what are they going to do with that basic income? Right? You know, what are they going to do with that? You know, in cities and stuff, where all where the huddled masses really are, you know, where the rents are so high, that basic income won't even pay their rent. See, everything is an illusion right now. They're just lying to people. And I've said this before. I'm not sure what their end game is, what they're up to. And it's kind of scary because it's almost as if they don't think, they're acting as if they're killing time until maybe half the people are going to like disappear somehow or something. Right? I mean, like I said, what is it? We're going to have a new plague or something? Or are they up to something? You know, was this last thing that just happened the last year, was that a dry run or something? I mean, I don't know. I'm speculating. I don't know. It's weird, but it's very puzzling to me. Because it's clear that there are more and more robotics taking the jobs away from human beings. There are more and more algorithms taking away jobs from human beings. More and more AI chatbots taking away jobs from human beings. When they raise the wage to $15 an hour, the employers are what they do. And in order to stay in business, the smaller businesses, they're letting go employees and putting more pressure on the people they have, or streamlining their operation to work within that budget. So that means less employees there. You know, they're talking about infrastructure jobs, but they have nobody in this country, virtually nobody in this country. We don't have like all these tradesmen that know how to use this equipment, heavy equipment. And the heavy equipment all runs on carbon-based fuels, which at the same time they're closing down pipelines and saying they're going publicly coming out saying they're going to phase out of. Well, how could you have an infrastructure project that requires heavy equipment that only runs on carbon-based fuels? You see what I mean? So that's a lie. That's like some kind of, and nobody's pointing that out except me, as far as I know. That's what I'm saying. And this unemployment bonus thing is going to end in September. You know, put all these, you know, connect all these dots and look at it. And meanwhile, everybody's worried about being triggered or pointing fingers at people for like sticks and stones, you know, will break my bones. Names will never hurt me. I mean, about names and stuff. Or like, oh, some person was shot by somebody. But they don't forget about the other 20,000 homicides, right? They just point out a story that they can milk, an individual that fits, you know, some sort of profile thing that they can, you know, milk for a year. So they have content on the media so they could sell advertising. They don't care about the person. And the people who are repeated these stories are multimillionaires who are totally removed from any kind of threat of violence because they live in gated communities and doorman buildings and are you know, taking the work in limos and, you know, SUVs with drivers, and they vacation in all these luxurious resorts. And so eventually people are going to wake up to this, and that's going to be a rude awakening. So this is the new counterculture, man. Wake up. All right. Punk rock, right? 21. Anyway, that's it. You know, that's all I have to say for today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Have a great week. It's Monday morning. So if you unfortunately are part of the rat race, 6:44 a.m., get out of it. Get out of that. Cheers. Peace.